Hey, it's KiwiSylveon, and welcome back to Seduce Neither Tome. In the last episode, we left off with Violet staring down Diana. And I still have a little cold, so. But I just want to get this over with. What's stopping me?
Then you must not care about your friends and family as much as you care for the boys.
I don't know if you can hear it anymore. I'll probably have to turn it up a little bit for the audio. If not, I'll just see. I stopped and stared. What did she mean by that? Was that a threat to my family? Diana smirked at me, knowing the confusion behind my eyes.
Let's just say that if you tell the boys about me, I'll make sure that no one will care for you, and you'll be all alone in this little house until the day you die.
I could feel fear creeping into me. Alone? How could she do that? The word demon reverberated in my head, reminding me that I was facing off against something supernatural. A human with a shield versus a devil was one thing. A human on her own versus a demon was another.
Have a good night.
Poof! And with that, Diana sank into the floor through a magic purple pentagram, which disappeared as her head vanished into the floor. I couldn't believe it. I had one problem, and now I had another. Instead of a crazy psycho devil who wanted to kill me and the boys, I had a succubus wanting to ruin my life and take the boys away. Could my life get any worse? No, I wasn't going to let her win. She's not as powerful as she looks. I know it. I had to mentally confirm it. She wasn't going to win. The boys wanted to stay with me. I let her aside before closing my eyes, affirming my plan of action. No matter what she was going to do, I was going to beat her. Eventually, I woke up. Eventually, the morning arrived and the sun screamed at me to get up. Surprisingly, I woke up before my alarm clock once again, which was nice. I stretched out and quickly got dressed, getting ready for school. She expects me to say goodbye to the boys. I will say good morning, and we'll see them when I come back. No way am I going to say goodbye. I scooped up my bag and headed downstairs to the dining room, seeing the boys already eating a delicious selection of food. The smell made my stomach growl wildly as the sight of food drove me to walk further into the room.
Good morning, miss. Did you sleep well?
Before I could lie, hiding the incident in the back of my mind, Damien furrowed his eyebrows and stopped eating.
She's here.
The boys looked to Damien in confusion while I cursed his ability silently in my mouth.
Damien, what's up with you? Of course she's here. She kinda owns the house.
Damien looked to me, wanting me to explain for him. However, the threats that Diana gave me last night warned me to keep my mouth shut. Go for it. Whoa. I just completely did that. A girl named Diana came by last night. Let me move my mouse off.
Diana? Is she important?
Did she try to hurt you?
We're protective. She's a succubus. That single word made the boys stop and stare at me. I looked to each boy, unsure of what was going through their minds. Should I have avoided it?
So, she's come to try and bring us back.
She must really be desperate.
Well, what should we do now?
Nothing. She'll give up eventually.
Will she?
The boys continued to look at me as if I knew the answer to that question. Damn it, Damien! She said that if I told you, she'd make my life a living hell. She can't possibly do that, right? She's not a devil.
No, she isn't. However, she is a very powerful demon.
She's a master of mind manipulation and has been trained in illusion. Unlike other demons who use strength to get power, she uses her charisma.
She has the power to make armies bow to her and obey her every whim. That's why she's so obsessed with us.
What do you mean?
Well, she sort of has family ties to us. She was promised to marry one of us in exchange for more power.
She's just some whacked up hussy who doesn't know how to close her legs. She's not a real threat.
Oh, really? I feel insulted.
Matching faces for Sam and Matthew. The boys and I looked around the room, wondering where the voice came from. I felt cold sweat run down the back of my neck in fear, remembering what kind of power she had. At last, we saw Diana by the entrance of the kitchen, juggling a single red apple in her hand as she leaned against the archway. The boys quickly surrounded me, glaring at the intruder.
So, you took up a human name as well.
Beautiful name, isn't it? Well, for a human name, anyway.
I like all their faces. They're like, we're not buying that shit. And get the fuck out.
What the hell do you want?
I pretty much just said that, Sam. Oh well.
To bring you back, of course. However, you weren't supposed to know that I was coming. I completely forgot about that little mind-reading ability. My mistake.
Diana pushed up from the archway and walked toward us, making the boys step closer to me in a protective circle. Diana laughed.
My. What has the world come to? A group of demons protecting a human girl? I'll tell you right now, she's not that pretty. And from what I can tell, she's still a virgin.
My face grew red in complete anger and embarrassment. How dare she? Oh, hell no! I stepped up, gently pushing the boys away to be face to face with Diana. I was furious, and she was about to feel my wrath. You are in my house. You are an intruder. You have no power here.
Oh, really? Do I have to remind you of the power I have, dear?
With a snap of her fingers, my mind suddenly locked up, and I felt blank. I could see the world around me, but I lost control of my body. The boys quickly reformed around me, with James gripping onto Diana's wrist in anger.
You will leave this instant.
Or what? You'll kill me? I completely dare you to.
Whoa, Damien's face. Like, still can't get over that face.
Let me do it. I could use the workout.
Of course, Sam is the first to go. Let me at her.
Don't.
The boys looked at Damien while Diana smirked at my blank state. I wanted to fight this hold, but her power held me down.
And why not?
She wants us to kill her. If she dies, then civil war starts in the demon world.
Very good, sweetie.
What happens in the demon world doesn't concern us anymore. We live here now.
Exactly, Eric. You tell her.
The demons will come to the human world and hunt us down before attacking each other.
Of course, there's always a downside. The demons will come to the human world? All because of her?
You sneaky bitch.
My thoughts exactly, Sam. My thoughts exactly. With another snap of Diana's fingers, I was released from her hold, almost buckling to my knees.
Well, will you all change your minds? I assure you, it's for the greater good.
Greater good in my butt. I expected the boys to say no. What I heard was complete silence. None of the boys replied to Diana, which made me both nervous and fearful as to why. Diana leaned her head back a bit, surprised for a different reason.
No. Well, I see.
Was silence truly them saying no to her? I looked around at the boys and saw the disobedience in their eyes, giving me my answer. I felt my heart flutter, especially when my eyes landed on Sam. He kept close to me, glaring daggers into Diana. I could feel that he was completely adamant in his choice to stay. I didn't know what, but I was incredibly happy to know that he wanted to stay. I added words. Diana sighed and pressed a finger to her temple, rubbing it gently.
Either all of you are playing a very convincing hard-to-get game, or you all must be out of your minds.
I like how the only one that doesn't look completely ticked is, well, Matthew, because he looks like he's about to worry himself to death. Or, what would that be? Worry himself back to life or something? Diana then looked to me, locking her gaze with mine as if to read me. I could tell she wanted me to do something, but the boys would stop her, so the stare was her only available action. After a small moment of silence, Diana licked her lips before breaking the gaze battle and smiling to the boys around me.
Very well. I guess I'll take my leave now.
What? Her leave? Was she serious? The boys around me straightened up and grew confused looks on their faces as Diana stepped back and away from us with a small bow, flaunting her cleavage. Without another word, a deep purple pentagram appeared under her feet and Diana's body slowly sank into the floor. As her head vanished into the floor, the pentagram vanished. All at once, the boys relaxed and slowly began to return to their spots at the table, each deep in thought. I don't like it when boys go to anywhere in deep in thought. It's a bad sign, I know from experience.
She'll be back, but she won't kill us. She needs us alive.
Whatever. We'll just keep saying no. She can't force us to come back.
She can't do anything but annoy us. Eventually, she'll give up.
That's the hope, anyway.
Hopefully. Sam walked over to me and placed a hand on my shoulder, looking at me with concern.
If she comes after you, you need to tell us, okay?
I nodded, knowing that he wanted to protect me. Sam gently took his hand from my shoulder and very gently moved a strand of hair from my face, however making me blush and forget what I was thinking about. The sound of collective chuckles and playful snickers whispered through the air, making me blush even more. As Sam grunted in reply, the laughter stopped. This is why I would not like to have that kind of brothers, where they just go and snicker and all that fun stuff. I looked up to see he was glaring at his brothers, a fist forming in his hand, ready to swing at one of them. He and I pulled away from each other just as the sound of Naomi's car appeared. I quickly ate my food, waved to the boys, and left, confident that nothing was going to happen. Never, ever say that nothing will happen before the day is over. I avoided talking about the ride back home yesterday, saying that the ride was a one-time thing. I'll be riding with you guys from now on to and from school. The girls seemed very happy. We entered the school, quickly gathered our things from our lockers, and headed to class. There were no events, to our surprise. History wasn't exactly fun, but our teacher was great. At least he would have been great if he was in class that day. Naomi and Suzu took their seats around me, Suzu in front, Naomi beside me, before the class bell rang and the class was greeted by the dean.
Students, you'll be having a substitute for class today.
Yes!
Everyone meet.
Wait.
Miss Diana.
My heart stopped. At the door was the dean with Diana, looking over the students and smirking as her eyes landed on me. She strutted over to the teacher's desk, ignoring, or welcoming, the whispers from the other students before sitting on the wood and crossing her legs.
Thank you, Dean. You can go now.
With a wave of Diana's hands, the dean left the classroom, closed the door, and left the area. Diana smiled at us, making my stomach turn. What was she going to do?
So, history. History. Such a silly thing, isn't it? I mean, what do we care about the past? We're in the present.
The rest of the class, including Naomi and Suzu, hesitantly nodded in agreement, unsure about this new teacher, but willing to listen to more of what she had to say.
The present is so full of wonderful things. While the labors of the past are the reason we have many things, it is our chance and privilege to utilize what has been given to us.
Her charm was almost infectious. The class was practically starting to eat out of her hand. I looked around to see classmates grinning and agreeing with Diana. I pressed my lips together as I listened further. I had no choice. Sorry.
Self-voicing disabled.
Whoa. Weird.
What's even funnier about human beings is that some of the bits of history we hear as either made up or completely biased to one side. It's like a story you read as a child. You hear of the princess and the prince, and they live happily ever after. But what about the family she left behind? What of her friends?
Oh my god, she's getting too deep. The students listened and agreed intently to her words. I could tell, however, that these words were all targeted at me.
The original story of the Little Mermaid, a perfect example of biased opinion. Here we have a girl who thinks she can be with this prince, but this prince has to marry a princess. What would happen if the mermaid had her way? What makes the mermaid so important that the princess has to suffer the consequences?
Keep quiet. I kept my mouth shut. There was no way I was going to let her get to me. Despite her being the teacher, I was going to ignore her. There was no telling what she could do if I talked back. Diana looked to me, expecting me to speak, but I merely stared at her. A smirk graced her face, a glare graced mine. I didn't need to fight to win.
It's still something to think about, however, as we think of this story. It's so easy to believe that the mermaid was the heroine. But what of the poor princess? Why should the princess suffer the antics of a mermaid? The princess didn't do anything wrong to her.
More nonsense. I knew this was all a subliminal message to me to make me pity her. My anger didn't allow any leeway to feel pity for her. How long was she planning to drag this out? She wasn't a real teacher. Diana continued to rave about the injustice the princess had to suffer through while the mermaid was in the prince's sight. To Diana, it was injustice. To me, it was a fairy tale. The boys chose me. He chose me. She wasn't going to convince them otherwise, and I wasn't going to let her. Diana stretched her arms up, making an obvious sexual noise that made some of the boys in the class shift in their seats. I rolled my eyes.
Well, that's enough about fairy tales. After all, the Little Mermaid was fated to lose her prince in the original story anyway. It was for the better, though. The kingdoms, I'm sure, flourished, and the prince and princess lived happily ever after.
Not a word. I could tell that she was trying to pull me to speak more and more. I knew she was wrong, but I wasn't intimidated enough to fall for her words and speak up. I decided to just watch and observe for the remainder of the class. Her class had become a lecture and no one spoke as she spouted nonsense. Diana then stopped talking and looked at the clock on the wall, reading it quickly. This class had barely begun. Why was she looking at the time? Diana then leaned against the blackboard and smiled to us. I became worried.
You know what? School isn't important. Everyone, go ahead and head home. Take the week off.
Okay. This is the one time I'm jealous. Why can't there be just one thing that's like this? But no, school's important, kids. Stay in school. Don't listen to succubuses. Or succubi? Succubus? Whatever the plural is. Don't listen to them. School is very important. The students suddenly began to chat happily or in confusion of the situation. Many thought it was a dream come true. Others knew better. Before anyone could protest, however, Diana pressed a finger to her lips and counted down with her fingers in the air. 3, 2, 1. The speakers of the classroom gently awoke, giving us an announcement we would never believe.
Attention students. Due to an emergency faculty meeting, we will be closing school for the remainder of the day and this entire week. Please leave the school quickly and quietly and have a good rest of the week.
What? She used her powers on them. Damn it. I felt the need to stop her, but how could I stop a demon in the middle of a public area? Diane smiled before gesturing to the door.
Have a nice week off. School will resume next week.
Many of the students filed out, chatting to each other about new impromptu plans. Suzu was beyond happy, but Naomi was hesitant. Before we could pack up and leave, however, Diana stepped to us.
Excuse me, little miss. I'd like you to stay a little while. There's something we need to discuss.
Oh, great. As Diana looked to Suzu and Naomi, she snapped her fingers, making my friends tense up.
You two can head home. Don't worry about your friend until next week, okay? If you contact her, she won't reply, so don't bother. If she contacts you, ignore her, because she's just fine.
What a bitch. As if on command, Suzu and Naomi left the room. I tried to march after them, but Diana stepped in my path, warning me with her eyes that if I followed, there would be hell to pay. I had lost my two friends, at least for the week. Diana and I were alone, just like she wanted. I slammed my head on the desk in front of me and glared at Diana. What are you doing and what are you thinking?
What? Do I not make a good teacher? I figured you should have a little lesson, so I took matters into my own hands.
You didn't see it, but I was flipping her off. Whatever you're trying to do won't work.
You really think so, dear? And what makes you so sure about that?
What was making me so sure? Why was I confident? Were the boys worth this? My thoughts began to fill with doubt. All the uncertainties about this whole idea began to cloud my mind. If the boys were ever found out, there'd be hell to pay. Was it worth it? What about Diana? What would she do to me? Would she make my parents forget about me completely? Would she ruin my friends' lives out of spite? In my gut, I felt a stone of confidence try to fight back, but the heaviness of my thoughts began to dissolve that stone little by little. What was going on with me? I looked up to Diana once again to see her gaze boring into my eyes. She was using her powers on me. This time, I was away from home, so I couldn't escape. Or could I? Did I want to? The way she stared at me made me feel warm and fuzzy inside my chest. I felt like melting. Diana lifted a hand under my chin and ran her thumb over my lips, licking her own. I could feel little shots of energy zipping from under my skin into my chin where she held me.
Now, let's have a little taste of that sweet, virginal sexual energy.
I watched as she leaned in, ready to kiss me and take my energy. Half of my body felt elation at the idea. The other half completely rejected it and didn't want her to even touch me. Sam... Suddenly, Diana stopped in her tracks.
Sam, who is...
Then dawned on her.
Ah, one of the boys. Why don't you tell me which boy is Sam?
I felt myself nod in compliance. The third. Diana giggled in reply before letting go of my face and stepping back.
Really? The brute? With you?
So what? This sounds awesome. I nodded once again, but this time it was partly my own decision to reply. Diana let out a sound that mimicked a cat's purr before stepping away from me.
All right, then. Well, if it's the brute you're infatuated with, you should really rethink your romantic options.
Diana chuckled before kissing my nose, where I felt a shot of energy zap out of my body, almost making me dizzy and recoil. Diana then turned to the desk and sat in the mud, crossing her legs.
You can go now. Remember, no class for the rest of the week.
And how am I supposed to get home? My two friends left me here thanks to you.
Oh, were they your ride? My apologies. Let me help then.
Diana then lifted her hand and snapped her fingers. I suddenly felt the floor sink from underneath me, forcing me to look down. A purple pentagram surrounded my feet, pulling me into the ground. Whoa! Before I could fight, however, I sank fully into the floor, fading into darkness and shutting my eyes. As I opened them, I felt my silk sheets around me, soothing my anxiety from the darkness that had previously surrounded me. What the... Why did Diana bring me home? Was this an illusion? Was I being tricked? Something was going on. I sat up on my bed, looking around me. I was indeed in my room. There was no mistake about that. Why? Diana is too strange. Was this a game? Was this part of her plan to get the boys back? I was lost and confused more than ever, despite my logical thought trying to piece the puzzle that is Diana together. The more I tried to solve her, the less I understood about the situation I was in. I was interrupted, however, by my door suddenly opening, revealing the boys with Damien's hands on the doorknob.
Miss, what are you doing here?
Aren't you supposed to be in school?
Yeah? Hey, at least they know my schedule, technically. Or, Violet, technically. I furrowed my eyebrows and stared at Damien, asking him to answer their questions through my thoughts. Speaking of answering stuff, I have to I have to keep recording, and by the time you see this, it'll be probably weeks ahead. Because I'm so wrapped in this story that I just want to keep recording. Despite the fact that I do need sleep and I need food, but hopefully the sound's a lot better, because I've noticed that in the previous episodes it was loud with the music. I will be able to find out in post if anything changed, so I will see you all in the next episode of Seduce Me, and remember to like, comment, and subscribe. I appreciate all the support, and I noticed when I was uploading that I've hit 300 videos. I never thought that when I started this channel, I didn't even expect to get past 150. But now I've almost doubled that. I've tripled the subscribers I had, which is amazing. I'm just in awe right now. Seeing my channel grow from this little itty thing to, well, it's still small, but it's something. I'm over emotional almost. I thank you all so much for watching, and if you hit that like button, you will have a fabulous day. Goodbye.